Hello sweet beans, my name is Silly and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a mid-year check-in with all of these books and more, and doing the mid-year freakout tag. I've done this about every year in the past few years, and it's nice to check in, see what books we're reading, what we're excited about, what we've been disappointed by, and what we're looking forward to reading for the second half of the year. So without further ado, let's get started. And as per tradition, I do this tag backwards because I feel like starting off with the best book of the year so far, I mean, what's the point of watching any further, right? I gotta give you something to look forward to, something to entice you, something exciting, and we're gonna do it backwards. So let's get started. Starting off with, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? So first of all, I need to read The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. This is in the Inheritance trilogy. Nope, the Broken Earth trilogy. The Inheritance one is a different one. This is in the Broken Earth trilogy. It starts with the 5th season, and this is the last book in this series. Also, if you hear that background noise, those are the military flyovers that are happening over DC all day long for the entire 4th of July weekend, and that's about it. So we've been dealing with those every single day for the past couple of days, for most of the day, including stealth bombers. So if it sounds like something is going on outside, don't worry about it. Anyways, this is a fantasy series. It can either be interpreted as a futuristic version of our world that has changed a lot after hundreds and hundreds of years, or just a fantasy setting. In this story, the Earth, known as Father Earth, has begun rebelling against its inhabitants, and there are these natural cycles known as seasons that come with floods and volcano eruptions and pestilence and all these things. There's also a group of people who can control the tremors of the earth and use that as part of their powers. These people are both necessary and revered by society, but also very much feared, and are specifically killed off when they are found within their communities, unless they are sent to a specific place to train and hone those powers so that it can be basically utilized by the rest of society. The first book starts off with 3 points of view that begin to converge and join together as these people are on their own different journeys to figure out what to do as this season has struck. That's all I can say without giving away really any spoilers. It's beautifully written. These are award-winning books, I think from the Nebula Awards. Yeah, Hugo and Nebula Awards. N.K. Jemisin's writing is beautiful. So I want to finish this one. And then I've been meaning to read these books. There's, I think, either 3 or 4 in this series, actually. I've been meaning to read these for almost a year now. I got both of these copies when I was in Prague last year during Thanksgiving. And I desperately want to read these. I just haven't gotten to them yet. So both of these are really cozy fantasy stories. There's, I think, a dash of romance. Maybe not in both. I think in one of them. Okay, Paladin's Strength, there is romance. I don't think there's romance in Paladin's Grace. Maybe there is. This one is about a perfumer and a broken paladin. The paladin spends his time knitting socks and working as a bodyguard. The perfumer finds herself pursued by ruffians and is rescued by a handsome paladin. And then in this one, he is a paladin of a dead god, and he's tracking a supernatural killer across the continent, and she is a nun from a secretive order on the trail of raiders who burned her convent and kidnapped her sisters. Very excited to read these very soon. I have been listening to the audiobooks of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I'm currently on the either 2nd or 3rd one. I think it's the 3rd one. Who's to say? The Dungeon Crawler's Cookbook. Absolutely loving it, so I need to finish that before the end of the year, maybe listen to another one. I've also been meaning to read Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This has been on my monthly to read list for a while. I am technically on page 31. I just keep getting distracted by other books. Literally, there's no reason that I have not finished this. It's a great read. It's so well written that I just feel immersed in it anytime I pick it up. Just too many books to read. This is basically about how tuberculosis is present in every part of society and everything can be traced back to tuberculosis. It's literally a curable disease that the system is just broken, and it should have been eradicated a long time ago, but because medications are not getting to the people that need it, it is still a very prevalent problem. I've also been meaning to read Jade City for forever. I have heard amazing things about this series. They also just got great new cover releases, so I purchased this one I think over a year ago at this point, and I can't wait to start this series, but I've promised myself that I need to finish another series first before I start a new one, which that is basically the 5th season series. So want to finish that. And then last of all, I really want to start Red Rising. Same situation. I promised myself not to start Red Rising until I finished at least one of the other series I'm currently reading. Okay, that was all just for question number 1. Next is, what is the most beautiful book you've purchased this year? And that would have to go to Grace's Heart. This is the special edition from Fairy Loot. If it had not come in the special edition, I would have purchased it regardless, because look at that, gorgeous. And I read this as an ARC for this year. I think it was sometime in the summer or the autumn of last year, but it didn't officially come out until January. I loved this book so much. It was fantastic, and it is in fact one of the most beautiful books that I own, and I technically purchased it this year. So look at that. Oh my gosh, I highly recommend this book. I can't technically include it in this tag as a favorite of this year since I did read it before. Actually, no, I think I finished it in January, so I can include it. Okay, maybe we'll see. That question's not till later, so I'll decide later. The next question is, what book made you happy? The first is Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. I love literally everything and anything that B.K. Borison has written. I've read every single one of her books. I do actually still need to read her latest one, And Now Back to You, but the thing is, I'm so excited to read it that I am saving it for a rainy day. But back to Good Spirits. This is a love story between a ghost of Christmas past and a young woman who works a, what is it called? Like a trinket shop, an antique shop. And basically in this world, there is the Department of Hauntings, I think. Is that what it is called? Who's to say? It's like hauntings and something else. Of course it doesn't tell me. Okay, well, it's called the Department of Hauntings and Spirits, maybe. And in it, the ghosts of Christmas past are tasked with finding, let's call them wayward souls, who need to be assisted in getting back on track. Of course, very much inspired by, what is it, A Christmas Tale? What's that story called? A Christmas Carol. And very much inspired by A Christmas Carol, where someone needs to see the error of their past ways in order to move forward. And that's what this story is about. But when our ghost of Christmas past, what's his name, Nolan, meets Harriet, the young woman, both of them are very confused because she seems like a lovely, nice person, if a little secluded and a little bit of an introvert. So this story is really focusing on them figuring out why he's there to help her and what he can do. Beautiful love story, really enjoyed it. Very fun. Does not need to be read in the winter or the holiday time. That's just kind of the theme of the book, but I read it like 3 months ago, so it doesn't matter. That one, and then I had the pleasure of rereading The Solstice Court by my friend, disclaimer, Jade Juniper, and I read this in preparation of beta reading and assisting with a couple edits on the sequel in this series, which is The Solstice Air, which is coming out very soon. I will put the updated release date right here, but you can pre-order it now if you want to. And I have read all of that one, and it is pretty dang amazing, so highly recommend. Anyways, I reread The Solstice Court because once I started beta reading, I realized I'd forgotten who most of the characters were, and me and my memory needed to be reminded. So I reread The Solstice Court, and it was just so lovely. I just really enjoyed being in this cozy fantasy world. It is a cozy political fantasy, and it takes place in the solstice court. There is just so many beautiful descriptions of festivals and food, and it is about a young woman who's growing up being a neutral party between two warring sides, and her befriending the brothers on each of these warring sides. Our main character, Kezura, is also a reincarnated soul. So in her past lineage, basically her soul is reincarnated in the next person in line for the throne over and over and over again. And so she's also dealing with this immense pressure about her past and all these expectations about whether or not she will inherit certain powers in her future, and that's also dived in a little bit more in the second book. So anyways, amazing book, really enjoyed rereading this one. The next question is, what is a book that made me cry? And there actually isn't a book that made me cry this year. There's still time, there's still hope. But there is one that did make me feel emotional, but it never got me to a point of crying at all. And that book is Good Bones by Maggie Smith. It's a poetry collection. It's all about family and childhood and growing up, and specifically the ones about her observing her daughter as her daughter is learning the ways of the world and how things work and these questions that her daughter is having. Those made me feel a little bit emotional. Next question is, who is my new favorite character? I haven't had many new characters that I really was enamored with. I enjoyed a lot of the characters, but like a new favorite just feels like a really tall request. I did very much enjoy the character of Murderbot in the Murderbot Diaries. I read the first book, All Systems Red, I think last month, and I did enjoy the character of Murderbot quite a bit. I also am halfway through Margot's Got Money Troubles. Love that book, love Margot. I haven't technically finished it though, but I'm going to include her as well. Newest fictional crush, I don't know if I have one. Most of the romances that I've read this year or had some, I guess it doesn't have to be a romance. I can have a crush on literally anyone. It doesn't have to have been in a romance. With that in mind, I will say Carl from Dungeon Crawler Carl. I love Carl. He's a funny guy. He's a funny bloke. I'm gonna say Carl. Yeah, why not? New favorite author, actually on theme, Matt Dinniman, who's the author of Dungeon Crawler Carl. I love his writing style. I love how he's, I don't know, I'm just loving how he's writing it. So I would say Matt Dinniman or Joe Abercrombie, who is the author of The Devils. I'm almost done reading The Devils. I have like maybe 30% more. And Joe Abercrombie's writing style is a lot. It's very much like dense high fantasy, but it is so well written. I just need to reread some sections sometimes. I really need to be paying attention. It is difficult to read before I go to bed because sometimes I will miss something. But I am loving Joe Abercrombie as well. Biggest surprise, so this is gonna be a negative surprise. Was it a surprise? Actually, no, I don't think I can even say that. Do I have a surprising book? No, I don't think I was surprised by anything that I read. Even the ones where it's a negative surprise, those I've put in the disappointing books category. And the ones that were meh, like I wasn't surprised by that. The ones that I enjoyed, I wasn't shocked by enjoying them either. You know, I don't think I have anything for this. God damn it. There goes my AC again. We only made it 18 minutes before it got too hot in here. So DC right now is 39 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is Fahrenheit. I think it's somewhere around 100. You can Google it. I'm not gonna learn Fahrenheit. I've made it this far in life. But it's horrific outside. I went outside to get coffee and I might have already gotten a tad of color. Actually, maybe not. Oh, maybe. Who's to say? Anyways, we'll be back momentarily. All right, we're back. So you know what? Instead, let's move on to the disappointing reads because boy, do I have some. If you've seen one of my recent videos, you won't be surprised by this one. I did both a recent reads video where I talked about this and then an in-depth rant video where I talked a lot about how disappointing this is. So I'm going to keep it short here because, like I said, I've discussed this book in depth. If you've already seen one of those videos, you already know. If you haven't, boy, is there some content for you to check out. I have read every single book by Abby Jimenez, including her backlist, everything she's written, including her short stories, everything. I have loved most of them. Some of them were fine. The backlist ones leave a little bit to be desired, but any of her recent work I've absolutely loved, no problem. So the moment that this came out, I picked it up in hardcover, mind you, and I would have returned it if I hadn't bought it at an indie bookstore. I just can't do that. I just can't do that. I can't ask an indie bookstore for my money back, even if it was my own fault, okay? Because 30 pages in, I already realized I had made a mistake, okay? Because I did not look up the synopsis of this book beforehand, okay? That was my mistake. That's totally on me because I trusted Abby. And this is not a spoiler because this is the entire plot of the book and it is written on the first few sentences of the inside like flap. If you at all read the synopsis of what this book is about, it will tell you I did not do that because I trusted Abby and it didn't matter to me. It should have mattered to me because this love story between these two people, it is about a woman, her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's best friend. You want to know who this man is? It's not her boyfriend, I'll tell you that much. It is her boyfriend's best friend. You want to know what is happening throughout this entire book? Spoiler alert, she's dating her boyfriend. While you're supposed to be rooting for her to get with her boyfriend's best friend, I mean, I'm sorry. I can't get behind that. I can't get behind the emotional cheating of this story taking place over the course of like almost a year of her just... There goes another F9 jet. Great. I just can't get behind that. So I hated this. This was massively disappointing and I wish I didn't have a physical copy. And here's the thing. I've talked about this to friends and they're like, you can just give it to someone. I'm like, right. Which of my friends do I hate enough to give them this as a gift on their birthday? I can put it in a little free library. That's about it. That's about all I've got. I can try to sell it online and be like, here, who wants to give me $5 for a book I hated? If you do, let me know in the comments, you know? Let me know. Maybe I'll put it on my Pango books. What else was disappointing? One Dark Window. I read it. It was fine. Everyone's been telling me about One Dark Window for the last like 2 years. It's by Rachel Gillig. I love The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I was excited to read this. Everyone was raving about it, and it was fine. It wasn't that well written. It was kind of all over the place. The romance was fine, and it was just a letdown. So I'm trying to decide if I'm going to read the sequel. I know that, who was it? I think Rochelle read the second one and enjoyed the second one a lot more than the first one. So that gives me some hope. Because that could be me too. But I don't know if I care enough to read the second one. So we'll see. We'll see. Another book that was like maybe disappointing, but my hopes weren't that high to begin with, was Sibylline or Sibylline by Melissa de la Cruz. This was one of the first books I read this year and oh wow, it was bad. It was bad. Let me just say, and this is a spoiler, so go forward 10 seconds if you don't want to be spoiled for this book, but it's not good, I'll tell you that much. It's about, hang on, the spoiler will come in a second. I'll tell you what the book's about first. It's about 3 young magicians or sorcerers, unclear, who have been rejected to basically the Harvard of magic schools and instead apply for jobs at said school, get these jobs because apparently they were not qualified to be students, but they were to get jobs. They have no experience, okay? They have no experience. They got like all A's. That's about it, sure. They get these jobs and they're trying to learn from lectures, but of course they're being kicked out. Then they discover a secret society and they uncover like a whole plot underground in the school. Anyways, here's the spoiler. Now it comes. They bring their friend back to life. Yeah, they had a three-way, which is all good and fine, but with the dead body of their friend. So yeah, not my favorite. Bit of a letdown, I'll say. All right, next question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And boy, do I have many. Let's go through them a little bit rapid fire. So I have Longtime Listener by B.K. Borison, which is the next in this like not at all connected book series, but these are all romances inspired by classic Nora Ephron movies. Then we have Grim Tidings by, you guessed it, my gal, B.K. Borison, and that is the next book in this department of, I think, hauntings and spirits, and that one is about a Grim Reaper, so very excited. Then we have A Devil of a Crime by T. Kingfisher. I forget what this is about, but it sounds incredible. I think there's a devil, yeah, there's literally a devil and someone else, and they're on some kind of mission. I think that's it. Then we have The Knave and the Moon, which is the sequel to The Night and the Moth. I think it's a duology, so I think that's the last book. Then we have A Bittersweet Spell by Rebecca Ross. Love Rebecca Ross. Absolutely loved her latest book. It's right here. Where is it? I can sense it. Hello? Wild Reverence. Loved Wild Reverence, so I'm very excited about her next one. And then last of all, The Adventure Zone Volume 7, Story and Song. I'm actually quite a bit behind on The Adventure Zone. I think I'm on Volume 4 and I own Volume 5, and I think I didn't finish 4, so I need to catch up. But either way, I'm excited about the release, even if I don't purchase it or read it this year. Next question is, what is a new release that I have not read yet? And I'm gonna count this as a new release. This is pretty new, who cares? This is Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree, and I've been meaning to read this ever since it came out, whenever that was. I think maybe almost a year ago at this point. Who's to say? This is the same author of Legends and Lattes, and Bookshops and Brews? No. What's the other book that they wrote? Bookshops and Bone Dust. I read Legends and Lattes, but not the other one. And this one is very much up my alley. It seems really fun and cozy. It has a bunch of little guys. I love a little guy. I did get it 50% off. So, very excited about that. And then it was either Travis Baldree or T. Kingfisher that wrote 9 Goblins, and I really want to read that one too. So those two. Best sequel I've read so far this year is actually The Obelisk Gate, which is the second book in the 5th season series by N.K. Jemisin. I first told you about that third book that I still need to read in this series. The second book, which I actually don't own a copy of. Funnily enough, I got the first one and the third one at a used bookstore a while back, and I'm still missing the second. So one day I will track down a copy of the second. But that second book, The Obelisk Gate, was my favorite sequel of the year. Was it also the only sequel that I've read this year? Yes. Does that matter? No, because it was amazing. So it's going to count regardless. Loved it. And you'll never guess what my favorite book of the year was. The 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I already described this to you at the beginning of the video, so I won't go over the plot again, but it's beautifully written. The story is fascinating. The entire time I was reading this, I did not know where it would go, which is hilarious because this is a reread, okay? I have read this book before. I read it in maybe 2019 with my friend Jade over at Jade Juniper and my friend Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe. And we all loved it then, but I wanted to keep reading the series. I never got to it. Now, many years later, I could not remember what happened, so I read it and I was like, oh, this book's amazing. And it was like I was reading it for the first time. You know, it was the prose of my memory, so loved it. Highly recommend this series. It's phenomenal. Oh, actually, I had another favorite, which is wild. My other favorite is Daddy Issues by Kate Golden, I think, or Goldbeck. There's 2 authors with very similar names. Maybe it's Goldbeck. Hang on. Kate Goldbeck. who's also the author of You Again. So this is her latest novel, and yes, the name is unfortunate, okay? Because I don't want to be telling people that one of my favorite books of the year was called Daddy Issues. So that's a little rough. Every single time I've told a friend about it, I'm like, so let me tell you all about this book and then I'll tell you the title. It's about a young woman who's been studying art, who wants to be a graphic novel and a comic book artist. It's the way that she connected with her dad when she was younger, and she would draw his favorite superhero, who was X-Men, or hello? She would draw his favorite superhero, which is Magneto from X-Men. She went to college to study art, and then at some point a professor of hers told her that her art is derivative, it's replicating existing stuff, and she doesn't have her own style. And then the pandemic happened. Then she ended up switching out of that major into art history instead. Had this whole like PhD program that she was going to go into, but then the pandemic happened and it just completely threw her off course. Now, 6 years later, she's still living with her mom, she's still working as a waitress, and she hasn't really restarted her life ever since then. And the story really starts off with her trying to figure out how to piece her life back together, how to move forward. Also meeting the guy next door who has a child who she ends up falling for. So it's daddy issues on 2 different levels, okay? It's an amazing book, just trust me, okay? Just trust me, just don't think about the name. I'm sure the name gets clicks, you know? I'm sure the marketing team was like, this'll get them, but it also really doesn't get other people, so you know. It's great though, highly recommend. So that's my mid-year check-in. That's my freakout tag. Let me know what you've really been enjoying, what I should keep my eye out for and check out, and what was your most disappointing book of the year? Because let's be honest, those are the ones that haunt us, because I'm still haunted by this. I think of this late at night and I go, Abby, why? You can watch my whole rant about it if you want. 30 minutes of me talking about all of the problems of that book. I start off with a non-spoiler section and then get into the spoilers because, but you know, you don't need to read it, so it's fine. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.